Alright, hello everyone. So, a few days ago, I did a 4-day long stream for no particular reason. And during that time, I needed some variation on the usual Football Manager and Pokemon content. So, I had a friend of mine and a friend of the stream, Aubs, teach me some chess. She's also the one who teaches me a lot of Emerald Kaizo. We initially covered some of the basic tactics, since I pretty much had an idea of how pieces moved around already, but that was about it. So if you want to learn about forks, pins, and skewers, stick around. Thanks.
I think for now, I just want to teach you some basic tactics, basically. You've mentioned to me that you know how the pieces move and things like that.
Just
so
about,
I think
yep.
the first thing that you want to do with someone who's like learned that is teach them like what are like the cool things the pieces can do, I guess, right? Like
Yeah, so like in context rather than just like in a vacuum.
Exactly. Yeah. So are you familiar with the concept of like strategy and tactics in chess, or I guess in general? You can broadly divide, and this is sort of an oversimplification, but you can broadly divide most concepts in chess into like either being like strategy or tactics, right?
Yeah, I've kind of realized I don't actually know what the difference is. You might have to explain that.
Why don't we go over that real quick? Let's maybe first frame it in terms of like how a computer does it, right? So what a computer does in chess, it'll sort of calculate out some number of moves forwards, right? Like 18, 20, 30 moves into the future, right?
Okay.
And it'll sort of say, okay, if I go that far ahead, what are the various positions that we can wind up at, right? So when we're saying 20 moves in the future, we're not just talking about like, a specific line of moves. We're talking about like branching out in all directions. Like if I move here, what are all the moves that you can make? And then what are all the moves that I can make in response, right? And you look through all that, and then you ask yourself sort of which one of those positions like looks the best to me, right? In a sort of min-maxy way, right? Because your opponent's going to be trying to choose the best position for them too. So you're trying to choose the position for like the move for you, where the best position for them like is also like the best position for you out of all the possible moves, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah, I understand that.
So that's sort of like move by move calculation. Like if I go here, their boost move is here, and then my boost move is here, and that sort of thing. That's what tactics is, right? It's sort of specific move calculations. And then that sort of endpoint evaluation, right? Is this position better than this position? Is it better to have my rook here as opposed to here when the dust settles? That's more like strategy. We're going to be focusing on tactics today, right?
Cool.
Basically showing you some things that pieces can do and using those to form sort of building blocks of your gameplay so that you can say, okay, here's things that I need to watch out for my opponents trying to do to me, and things that I can incorporate into my game plan, right? I can angle to do a fork or to do a pin or to do a skewer or whatever. Let's play a game and we can have take backs, and that'll allow us to modify the position. And I'll just show you these tactics as they show up in opening.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Does that sound good?
Yep.
Okay. So first thing I'm going to show you is this attack called the fried liver. You'll be doing the fried liver against me. Move your king's pawn 2 forward 2 squares.
Cool.
And then I'll do the same. And then I want you to move out your king's knight to f3. Right, and then I'll move, and then I want you to move your bishop, your king's bishop on f1, over to c4.
c4. Okay, cool.
And then I am going to move over here, and then I'm going to teach you what's called the fried liver. But really, for us, it's just an example of a fork. So you're going to move your knight, the one on f3. You're going to move it to g5.
Okay.
So here's what's going on here. So what the threat you're making here against me, there's sort of two threats. Let's suppose that I make a random move. What is the best move for you right now?
So I'm seeing bishop to f7 is threatening.
Good.
Is threatening the king. I see. Oh, but also knight to f7 is threatening. Oh wait, no, it's not threatening king. Is that a threatening position though? I mean, it threatens rook and queen, right? I feel like that does some damage. Oh, right. So if I move the knight here, then you couldn't take the king.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what I'm seeing. Is if you move knight
You're
to
seeing
f7,
very
then
good. Yeah.
you
Go
need
ahead
to
and make
take
that
it with the
move.
king. Okay.
So I can't take that knight because, as you correctly identified, if I tried, then I'd be under check from your bishop,
Mm-hmm.
right? And now I'm placed in this precarious position. Chess has an action economy, right? Where you get one move per turn.
Yeah.
And that means that if you threaten more than one thing per turn, there's often, unless, except for like specific positions, but there's often no way to defend against it, right? I
Okay.
have to give something up. So what you've identified here is that the knight is attacking both my rook and my queen, right?
Right. Yeah.
So that's two things you're attacking. I can only move one of them out of danger, which means that I have to give one of them up.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay. Yeah.
So
makes
that
sense.
is known as a fork. It's very descriptive, right? Just the name itself. A fork is where your piece is attacking in two different directions at once, like the prongs of a fork. And because it's making two attacks at once, right? I can't often defend both things at the same time. So I have to give up one of them. In this case, I would want to give up my rook because my queen is higher value. So you would get to take my rook.
Okay. Yeah.
And your knight here is trapped because, no matter where you would try to move, there's only two squares. There's g6, f7. Your knight can't get out. But a rook is worth more than a knight, so that's a trade you're more than happy to make.
Wait, why can't the knight get out?
So if I, for example, play this move, what move could I play to trap? This move. That would do. So now your knight can't escape because there are only two moves your knight can move, two squares your knight can move to. And either one, I would be able to take it on.
Right, okay, so you take it with the knight if it's f7, or
Exactly.
with the king if it's g6?
Not the king, with h
Oh, just
pawn.
with the pawn. Right, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the idea behind a fork, is that a lot of times you lose the piece that's making the fork, but typically it's a piece that if you're losing it, you don't mind losing it, right? So in this case, you're using a knight. Knights are very classic forking pieces. Sort of the prototypical, or like the stereo, I don't know, the like very like classic notion. If you ask someone to describe a fork, they'll give this example, or they'll give a similar example with like a knight forking a king and a queen or something like that, right? So that's the other kind of.
Oh, sorry. All I was thinking was, so I guess because we didn't look at the opening, are there any general things I can look at of how to like create a fork? Because like I understand how it works conceptually now, but I don't know how I would necessarily get there in a game without just stumbling upon it by accident.
A lot of times that is how it happens at a lower level. What I would say is that when you're trying to create attacking opportunities, that's entirely a strategy thing, right? So the idea is that, you can't plan for move one how to get a fork, right? It's just not something, right? But what you can do is you can say, okay, if my pieces are all active, if I develop all the pieces in my opening, if I bring them into an attack, if I have them focusing on the same squares, these are the types of things that are likely to lend themselves well to tactics. And if I do all that, then there might arise a position in the future where suddenly I see, oh, 3 moves out, if I do this, then this, then this, I have a fork.
Right, okay, so I guess my question is, how do you get to the 3 moves out part? So like, I understand, yeah, you're not going to plan it from the start of the game.
Right.
Because there's too much to predict from your opponent.
That's just something else that you're going to have to learn eventually. You won't learn that today. Chess is all about building blocks, at least the way that I understand it, right? So the idea is like, you learn simple things. You learn about pins, forks, skewers. You learn about, removing defenders and deflections and Fish and Zook and whatever. And you learn about, strategic principles. You learn about controlling the center. You learn about putting your knights on outposts. You learn about, yada, yada, yada. And, these are all building blocks that when you put them together form a game plan. And like make you able to play through the whole game like that, right? to sort of angle yourself, to put yourself in good positions, and then take advantage of those positions to worsen your opponent's positions and that sort of thing, right?
Okay, yeah. Alright, I can see
So
that.
this is just one piece of a larger puzzle. Yeah. So we're gonna now cover pins. Let me show you a very classic opening called the Ruy Lopez. Let's restart the game. So we're gonna do the same sort of opening moves, more or less.
Uh-oh, that
Now,
means I
I'm
gotta
attacking your
remember them.
All right, this is a very classic opening, so it'll do well to remember it. I'm attacking your pawn right now with my knight, so you need to defend it. And a common way to defend it is to move your knight out, so you're developing a piece, right? A major piece is the knight, so you're developing that, and then you're also protecting your pawn at the same time.
So that's gonna be knight to c6, yeah?
Exactly, yeah.
Cool.
And now here's the sort of plan is you would like to push out your queen's pawn to take control of the center. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to push my bishop here, threatening a pin if you try that, right? So what you'll notice here is you can't move that knight anymore. Take some time to think about it, verify that it's true. But think about what would happen if you did move the knight.
First one, d4 is just obviously, then it's in range of your knight.
No. You're thinking too complicated. Very simple. What is the knight next to?
The bishop.
And what will the bishop be attacking if the knight moves?
Oh! Oh! Yeah, okay, that makes sense, right.
Right, so this is the notion of a pin. Literally, I mean, all of these are very descriptive, right?
Yeah.
Think about, you're pinning something to something else. We have pinned your knight to your king, right? And what this means is that your knight can no longer move without exposing your king, right? Pins can be used to take pieces. So let me give maybe a quick example. Suppose that I move my knight here, and feel free to just take it.
With the pawn, I'm guessing, yeah?
There's no pawn that can take it.
Wait, the knight?
Mm-hmm. Take your time. Just find a piece on your back rank that can attack the knight.
So, I mean, it's, So, I mean, that works, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Okay.
So, this is bad for me. I shouldn't be doing this because you get to attack my pawn and then take my rook and things like that. But the point of this here, that I'm just trying to illustrate here, is if you'll look at this position, I have a pawn attacking your knight, right? And this pawn is worth less than your knight, so I would love to trade your knight. Ordinarily, if you're in a position like this, you want to move your knight out of the way.
But I can't because of the pin.
Exactly, you can't move the knight at all.
Yeah.
So pins, one thing that pins can do is that if you're pinning something, that is sort of like equal or lesser value, right? So suppose I had a queen pinning your knight to your king. I don't want to trade my queen for your knight, but I can use my queen to hold your knight in place while I bring another lower value piece to attack it.
Right, yeah, okay, cool.
So that's one value of pins. Another value is if the piece pinning is lower value, right? So suppose that your knight were a rook instead, and a rook is worth more than a bishop. And moving my bishop to pin your rook, even if it only holds your rook in place for one turn while you move your king out of the way, that one turn is all I need to then trade off my bishop for your rook.
Yep, okay.
Does that
and
make
so
sense?
yeah, and so I'm guessing the response to a pin is if you can to I mean, yeah, okay, I guess you can either just move the piece that is being pinned out of the way, or would it be possible to like I could move my bishop to like d7, right? And that would stop the pin of the knight.
That's a perfect move. That is a very, very good move, yeah.
Oh, okay.
You're not putting it in the way of any pawn at all. Bishop to d5
I keep forgetting the capture rules on pawns somehow. Yeah, okay.
No, you're good. Yeah, so putting your bishop on d7 is if we go back a couple moves to where sort of you first had the pin, putting bishop on d7 is that's what you do 90% of times when you're in a pin like this. They just put the bishop on e7, put it on e7, d7, whatever, e2, d2, and just put it between the knight and the bishop. So that this has two effects. This maybe is going a little too in depth, but first off, it breaks the pin, so it allows the knight to move.
Yeah.
Second off, it defends the knight, with something other than a pawn. You don't generally want to double up your pawns because then they get in each other's way, right? Because you can only move pawns forward unless you capture, which means that if you have two pawns on the same like column, then they're gonna block. One of them is gonna be blocking the other's movement, right?
Right, okay.
So one thing that the Ruy Lopez aims to do in a certain line of it is that you exchange your bishop for the knight. Let's start a new game and I'll show you.
Okay, yeah, sure.
When you do study openings, it helps to learn the reason behind every move that gets played.
Yeah.
So the way that I remember the Ruy Lopez is I push out my pawn to control the center. You push out your pawn to contest the center. I move out my knight to threaten your pawn and control the center and develop a piece. You move out your knight to develop a piece, defend your pawn, and control the center. Right?
Yeah.
So every move is very logical, and then the next move is bishop to b5. And the way that I remember this move is you're trying to trade off the knight because it's the only defender of the pawn. So if you can get rid of the knight, then you can take the pawn.
Uh-huh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So now what I'm going to play is, okay, I don't like your bishop there. This is called the Morphe defense, where I think it's like you put the question to the bishop, right? So now the bishop either has to retreat or has to take the knight. It can't stay where it is.
Right, yeah, okay.
So go ahead and take my knight. So you've traded sort of two equal value pieces, but the end result is that my pawn is hanging. My pawns are doubled, right? So they're in each other's way, and I have no more developed pieces. I can develop a piece next turn, right? But at the moment, you have more developed pieces than I do.
So I just take the knight in this case? Oh, sorry, I take your pawn with my knight? Or...
Not quite. There's a reason that this opening still gets played by black, even though white can sort of force this. If you want to take my pawn, you're welcome to, and then I'll demonstrate another tactic.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So this is known as the skewer. The high value piece is in front, and it's in front of the low value piece, so that if the high value piece moves, which it has to, then you take the low value piece. In this case, you can move you can avoid moving your knight by pushing your queen's pawn forward 2 squares. So this is not the best example, but if you can only get out of this by moving your knight, you would have to move your knight to like f3, d3, like something like that, right?
So why is this a skewer? What's the kind of catch to retreating here, or is it just to force a retreat?
It's not a forced retreat. You can defend the knight with a pawn, and in fact that would be the best play here. This line does not get played. This is like bad for black.
Right,
but
okay,
I'm
yeah.
using this to illustrate a point. So if you move the knight backwards, so just move it to one of those 2 squares.
Okay. Okay.
So what happened was your knight was in the way of my queen taking the pawn. So when you move the knight out of the way, my queen then gets the pawn. All right, so why don't we give you a proper example of a skewer, and we'll go from there. So suppose that we got to this position somehow because we're both, 300 rated players and we're just making moves.
Yeah.
You could play the move here, the d pawn forward 2 squares. So what you'll notice here is that you've got your bishop attacking my queen. So my queen has to move, right? But if my queen moves, it'll expose my rook.
Yep, okay.
Right? So now I have to move my queen out of the way, maybe to a more sensible square. And you get to just take my rook.
Right, okay.
So that's the skewer.
Right, so the skewer is like, if you, as the, like, defending player who gets skewered, it's like if you have two, like, high-value pieces that are diagonal to each other.
They don't even have to both be high value. It's just, if you have two pieces that are on the same line.
Right, yeah,
so
okay.
diagonal. Yeah. There's a reason that we teach all of these together, and that's that these are moves that work based on the action economy, right? They're moves that take advantage of the fact that you can only make one move per turn. So you can't defend both pieces, right?
Yeah.
So a fork directly attacks both pieces. A pin attacks a larger value piece through a smaller value piece. And a skewer attacks a smaller value piece through a larger value piece.
Fork, pin, skewer. Right, I just press start. Oh, so I have to figure out if it's a fork, a pin, or a skewer, and then how to get out of it? Is that the idea?
Oh,
Oh,
I guess this one you are forked, and you have to figure out how to get out.
okay, where am I? Firstly, I've got to figure out where am I forked. Oh, it's the pawn and the knight on row 5, right? Oh, sorry, pawn and the
Not the pawn.
Oh, the rook
More
and the
high
knight.
value.
The rook and the knight.
Not quite. It is your rook and your queen.
Oh my god, the knight. I was looking
Yeah.
at the queen. Okay, yeah, so their
But
knight.
you have noticed something, which is that your rook and the queen are also on the same row, right? Or are on the same file.
Yeah. So you take the queen then, and then but then they
Mhm.
take your queen, and then you take with
Then you
rook.
can win their rook. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. That makes sense.
Mhm.
Try again.
I
What?
wouldn't go for the knight here. You sort of have a choice of two things you can take, right? So one rook is attacking the opponent's rook, and the other rook is attacking the opponent's knight, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the rook is higher value, so you
So
take this.
the rook is higher value, and if you take the knight, your own rook is hanging, which means that it's under attack and nothing's defending it. So
Under
your
attack.
opponent can then take your rook if you don't move it out of the way. So you've defended. I would look for a way to go on the offense here.
But this knight can take my king, right? I'm not wrong about that. Or...
Yes. So how do you move your king out of the way and attack a piece at the same time?
King to g5, so I can attack this pawn.
Well, so if you tried that, the problem is that the pawn is attacking that square and the knight is attacking that square.
Oh yeah.
So you actually can't legally move your king there. But you can attack a different piece with your king.
Oh, just the knight, right? I can just go to g7,
Perfect.
yeah? Okay,
Mhm.
cool.
Just see if you can find a fork, skewer, or a pin.
Can I move... Wait. No, that's not right. That's not right. It's okay. Oh, right. Bishop to g4? Because then I'm threatening both that bishop and the king? Or...
Oh, yes, yeah, that's exactly it. So, what do you do now?
Oh, right, so they moved this out the way. Okay. Oh, just take the bishop, right?
Perfect. Yeah, you got it.
Okay, cool. Rook needs to die. How... How do I make... Wait, why can't I just... Wait, why... And now I just promote, right?
Yep.
What?
You gotta do with 2 squares.
Wait,
The king,
that's...
the king can catch your pawn if you only move 1 square.
No shot. Oh my... Oh yeah, that's so crazy. Oh my god. What a choke. I didn't notice
we
it
were
hadn't
coming to a
moved.
natural stopping point anyway.
Yeah, that's true. That's funny though. How's chess going? It's been really cool. It's been really fun. And thank you to Aubs for coming onto the stream to teach me.
Yeah, of course. I always love introducing people to chess, and I mean, I know that you already knew how to move the pieces and stuff, but it was really, really cool watching you like learn tactics in real time and get better and improve.
Well, I'm glad. I think that was really cool.